Elisha visited a town called Shunem. While he was there, a prominent woman asked him to come have a meal with her and her husband. After the meal, they extended an invitation to him to come and have a meal with them anytime he's in the town of Shunem. The prophet did that, and after a long time, the wife said to her husband, "The man who comes here for a meal is a man of God. We should prepare a room up the stairs that he can come and go as he wants. We will provide him a bed, a table, a chair, and a lamp." The husband agreed, so they made the room, and Elisha used it whenever he was in town. One day, he and his servant Gehazi went to Shunem, and they went to the room that was provided for them. The prophet said to his servant, "The woman does many things for us. She has provided us this room. Go down and talk to her and ask, what can we do for you? Possibly she will want us to talk to the king for her, or possibly talk to a commander of the army." The servant went down and talked to the woman and came back up and said, "Well, she says that her family provides her everything she needs. She doesn't really have a need for anything." He said, "Gehazi, do you have any ideas of what we can do for her?" "Well, she doesn't have any children, and her husband is old." Okay, go down and ask the woman to come up and to stand in the doorway. She came up and she stood in the doorway, and Elisha said to her, "Next year at this time, you will give birth to a baby boy." She was shocked and said, "Man of God, don't tell me that unless it's true." And a year later, she gave birth to a baby boy, just like the prophet said. The boy grew and became strong, and finally was able to go out in the fields and work with his father. One day, the boy got an extreme headache. The father asked the servant to take the boy back into the house and to be with his mother. The servant took the child back, and she took the boy and held him in her lap the rest of the morning. Still, at noontime, the boy died. She picked him up and took him up the stairs and placed him on the cot that belonged to the prophet. She then sent a message to her husband saying, "Please give me a servant and a donkey. I must go see the man of God, and I'll be back as quickly as I can." So the husband sent a servant and a donkey, and she got on the donkey and said to the servant, "Hurry, take me to Mount Carmel, where the prophet's at, and don't slow down because I'm a woman unless I say something." So they went. Elijah saw her coming from a distance, and yet God didn't tell him why she was coming. He said, Gehazi, go and find out why the woman's coming. The Lord hasn't told me why. Gehazi went, and yet the woman wouldn't tell him, but just kept going towards the prophet. Finally, they arrived. The woman got off the donkey, came up and knelt down on the ground and grabbed a hold of the prophet's feet. Gehazi started to pull her away, and the prophet said, "No, don't do that. God has yet to tell me why she's here." She looked up at the prophet and said, she literally yelled at him, "I told you. Don't tell me I was going to have a son unless it was true." The prophet looked at his servant and said, "Quick, take this staff, go to this woman's home, find the son, and then put this staff on his face. Don't stop to talk to anyone. Don't stop until you get there." The servant left, and then the prophet turned to the woman and said, "You and your servant can now go home." She stood and looked at the prophet and said, "Listen to me, and listen carefully. As sure as God lives, and He's alive, and as sure as you live, and you're alive, I will not leave you until my son lives and is alive." So with that, the prophet agreed to go with them, and they went back to her home. Gehazi got there first and went up the stairs and found the boy, and he put the staff on the boy's face. But nothing happened. Finally, the woman, the servant, and Elisha arrives. He went up and went in the room and put everyone else out and locked the door so he could be alone. He went over to where the boy was laying and he prayed. He then laid down on top of the boy with his eyes over the top of the boy's eyes, his mouth over the top of the boy's mouth, and his hands over the top of the boy's hands. He laid there, and suddenly the boy's temperature started to warm up. He was no longer cold, and still he wasn't alive. The prophet got up. He paced back and forth. Once again, he laid down where his eyes were over the top of the boy's eyes, his mouth over the top of where the boy's mouth was, and his hands over the boy's hands. And he laid there. Suddenly, the boy sneezed, and then he sneezed again, and he sneezed. He'd sneezed a total of 7 times, and then he opened his eyes, and he looked at the prophet. Elisha got up. He went to the door and sent for the woman to come. She came into the room, and Elisha said to her, "Pick up your boy." She came over. Without saying a word, she knelt down on the floor before the prophet, and then got up, went and picked up her son, and left.